I'm going to cop to 3 biases. You may find more. That's okay. The first one is I think this idea of School 2.0 or 21st century learning or whatever you want to call it isn't as hard as we make it. I think it's old ideas with new tools. This is John Dewey. It doesn't get better than that. How many people in the room have read John Dewey? Keep your hands up if you've read him since grad school. Right. Amazing stuff, right? In 1900, he was, where did I do that out of order? He taught kids science by having them make lunch for their colleagues. I don't think we figured it out better than that. My mom, I am the child of a union lawyer and a teacher. I like to say that I don't have any original ideas. I am the most derivative human being in the world, and my parents like it every time I say that. But in 1975, in Camden, New Jersey, which is a challenging place to teach, my mom got a grant to have kids in Camden go out with the little Super 8 cameras and record the stories of their lives, to tell their stories. Today, we would call that digital storytelling. We'd give them a grant, they'd present at ISTE, it'd be wonderful, and Apple would probably hire them away and take them out of the classroom. Back then, the hard part about all of that was the stories were incredible. No one had ever asked these kids to tell these stories. Their stories. That was a profound moment. But it took all summer long to get a little 3-minute clip of a story. And the final product looked, right? Because the tools weren't strong enough. The tools weren't fast enough. They weren't powerful enough. They couldn't do justice to the ideas of the children. We've removed that barrier. What Christian talked about is we can publish with a click. We can do more than publish with a click. We can create with a click. Profound artifacts of learning that are as slick and as professional and as impactful as what you see, sometimes more than what you see in Hollywood. Maybe the CGI is not as cool, I don't know. My second bias is that I have a visceral reaction anytime I hear that the job of schooling is to create the 21st century workforce. How dare they? Our job is much deeper than that, much more profound than that. It is to help children become the 21st century citizens. If we shoot for workforce, we will train them the way we need. And for the record, I don't think we know what our 21st century workforce looks like. If we shoot for citizenry, we will get the activists and the scholars and the parents and the neighbors and the people that we so desperately need. I don't think schools need to ape business. I think schools are profound institutions of learning all by themselves. And saying that we're going to stick you in a cubicle earlier and earlier and earlier perhaps doesn't do justice to the rich variety of the lives they will lead. My last bias is I believe that public education is the cornerstone of the American democratic experiment. I believe without public education, there is no American democracy. And I worry deeply about this. And I worry deeply about what we see going on right now in America, where this notion seems to be going away a little bit. Where public education, all that's going to mean is that we become the pass-through for every for-profit whomever to build whatever they want and call it school. Public education should be the best of what we are, not the schools of last resort. And I think we need to remember that. I think that being said, we have to understand that things are different. I don't think that the schools that we have today work the way they need to. But we also have to understand that there is a profound difference between change and innovation. How many people have been classroom teachers in the room? Awesome. How many of you had that experience where your principal went to a conference? You all know exactly where this is going, right? And the principal came home from the conference and they went to some workshop and they saw something awesome. And we're going to now change completely everything that we were going to do because I went to a conference. How many of you knew, especially if you listened to the veterans who'd been around for a little while, how many of you, right, you're already laughing, you know exactly where this is going. How many of you learned how to outlast whatever the change that the principal came home with from that conference was and still just do what you did? Come on, be honest, show of hands. How many of you figured it out? I did. Innovation is change with purpose. Innovation is change that moves you somewhere. Things are different. My son wakes up in the morning and he doesn't want to just watch TV, he wants to play on the iPad. The 4-year-old can manipulate that iPad. I mean, it's hysterical. We bought, I have an iPad, unabashedly. And we bought my parents an iPad. And the 4-year-old is teaching my parents how to use the iPad. I mean, that's not a joke. I had to do the settings, of course, but he's showing them how to use it. This is our current model. It's the factory model, right? That's what we did. The assembly line model. And by the way, just because I am that guy, how did we get the factory model? Business told us what schools should look like. We've been here before, right? We need to know our history. There's an amazing book that was written in the 1960s called Education and the Cult of Efficiency, which talks about how we got to this place in the first place. And we got there by listening to the business world. Schools need to be more like us. Our model's the assembly line, the Taylor scientific method. Schools are the only place in the world that still uses time study sheets. Be like us. And that's what we built. And Christian is right. On some level, we educated a nation. But maybe we lost something along the way. We need to understand that the model is broken, or at least needs massive revitalization. We also need to understand that we live in a time of incredible paradox, which is that kids can do more, create more, publish more, share more, learn more than ever before. This photo I just took, I love to walk around school and just capture what I see on the iPhone. I really need the new one because the camera's is nowhere near as cool. I end up buying on the odds, like the iPhone 1, the 3, the 5. What Sam is doing in this photo is he's got a document camera. He's doing a grasshopper dissection. The document camera is hooked right into his laptop. He is taking this image that he is creating. There's actually, you can see the Moodle site behind, which is our learning model. But he's going to take these images, or learning management system, excuse me. He's going to take this image, he's going to create that and put it as part of his lab report, and he's going to publish it on his blog. It's going to look, and it did look, as impressive and cool as anything you would see in a textbook. And here's the amazing thing. Nobody cares. Unless there's a question on grasshopper dissections on the state PSSAs. Kids are doing more, creating more, learning more than ever before, and being measured in one of the least interesting, innovative ways we've got. And in education today, you cannot go more than it's kind of amazing. I'm going to do it now, but this has been the longest I've gone in any kind of education conversation. Oh no, we said it earlier. I take it back. Without hearing this phrase. Data-driven decision making. Data, 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 data. It's all about the data. Your data wall, your data this, your data that. I'm a big fan of data. I think it's important. But I think the data-driven decision-making assumes one thing, that you use good data. And standardized testing, no matter how much money we spend in Race to the Top on it, gives us bad data. It's cheap. It's the least expensive data. Doug Christensen, by the way, and this should really start to scare us. I don't know if you saw the news this morning. The New York Times is reporting that in New York State, they are adding 12 more tests a year to a child's life. And the reason is because they just passed their Race to the Top. They were one of the states that got Race to the Top funds, but there were too many untested subjects. So their value add for measuring teachers, their teacher evaluation model was imprecise because they hadn't figured out how to test history yet, or phys ed, or special education, or art. So they're adding tests in every untested subject. Doug Christensen is the former state commissioner of education in Nebraska. He's the architect of one of the most interesting projects and innovative projects on student assessment out there called the STARS project. That was a way to do project-based assessment with all kinds of inter-rater reliability and all kinds of really amazing things. He said, a test can be either a pedagogical tool or a policy tool, but as soon as you try and make it both, you break people. This is cheap, it's replicable, it's scalable, and it's thin. And we can do better.